Luke 10 verses 29 to 33. But he, willing to justify himself, said unto Jesus, And who is my neighbor? And Jesus answering said, A certain man went down from Jerusalem to Jericho, and fell among thieves, which stripped him of his raiment, and wounded him, and departed, leaving him half dead. And by chance there came down a certain priest that way, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. And likewise a Levite, when he was at the place, came and looked on him, and passed by on the other side. But a certain Samaritan, as he journeyed, came where he was, and when he saw him, he had compassion on him.
Question. Pastor Wind, after hearing the teachings of the Good Samaritan, that the brothers and sisters of Zion and the world, there's another way to look at the criteria for heaven. Many brothers and sisters feel the same way. When I first came to Zion, we have seen goodness in our pastor. Because you gave away so many things for free, for example, sermon tapes, and all gatherings are free of charge. This attracted a good congregation, willing to follow the pastor's lead, and God said, 1, 4, 5, 5. It marks the number of people in our church. Although the hydrogen peroxide incident brought a lot of persecution, but there is still a group of brothers and sisters, follow the pastor with moral courage. And then there was the Y2K incident. Or street sermons, speaking meetings. Zion sword earpiece, thousands of swords, momentum. In fact, every brother and sister who participated in street preaching, also, without expecting anything in return, blessed the city and the people around you, may they be saved. But as the pastor always said, for over 20 years, whether it is Hong Kong people or people around the world, instead of repaying us, and they kept slandering us. Even when we gave away Zion sword headphones, we've also been slandered. No wonder, at this very moment, God will judge the world with 4 horses. Isn't that right?
Right, and this is what I always say, the reason why God is playing tricks on them. As the Chinese saying goes, kick on the iron plate. It means that when you're acting like a bully, unexpectedly, the other party is much stronger than you. It's like a kick to the iron plate. Those who crucified the Lord Jesus in Jerusalem, it's like kicking an iron plate, because God had arranged for a good Samaritan, give them a reasonable enjoyment. Of course, not everyone knows the Lord Jesus, but there's no denying it. The Lord Jesus is the best Samaritan of our time. Who curses him, who blesses him, this is comparable to cursing or blessing Abraham. In the same way, in this age, we are also an iron plate. We don't need revenge, since everything we do comes from God's will, since we are the anointed ones, anyone who gives the slightest offense will die a terrible death. At the moment, they can do whatever they want, even to fight Zion for a long time. Later, in hell, not only will they suffer 100 times longer than others, the pain will be 100 times worse than others. And in a situation like this, brothers and sisters of the same heart as me, they were molded into the best Samaritans. Because they never give up and never lose heart. In fact, the brothers and sisters stayed in Zion, go with Zion to bless people. From this Samaritan mentality, human responsibilities resonate, feeling that giving is free, freely you have received, freely give. It's a perfectly reasonable thing to do. In contrast, many Christians in other churches, already forgotten, a trend of charging has been formed. As they charge, while claiming to be a Samaritan, how ridiculous is this? Where does the Bible say there are charges? Even for singing a worship song, there's a royalty fee. And call yourself a good Samaritan? During their lifetime, it's impossible. In fact, those brothers and sisters who resonate with me and work together, not without its struggles, or maybe without the slightest concern, even most people are considered weak by the world. Even so, they use their limited power to bless people. It shows what good Samaritans they are. On the contrary, strong people, in addition to not helping people, not blessing people, even more disdainful of the practice, even though they're capable of doing more, it could have been done for less. Honestly, members of Zion, most of them are weak, in other people's call a housewife or an uncle. Before buying Bitcoin, few are rich, and yet they were willing to participate, complete God's test. But of course, their weak status, God intended it, the purpose is to allow them to contribute more during their lifetime. Because since they don't have much, a poor and uneducated people, so what they're giving, it's more like a widow's 2 mites, it can be a great blessing. Needless to say, brothers and sisters think, how can I catch up with Pastor Wind? Zion is so good, how can I keep up? It's because they're weak. Because they lack, because they have nothing, they would like to work together with Zion. When God scores, it will give them 10-fold, 100-fold more points. Therefore, the eternal value of the members of Zion, it is not to be underestimated. Some might think, it must be someone with a good background, such as the Queen of England. Participate in Zion and contribute, to be one of the most influential people in eternity. No. For God judges people according to their character. Samaritan, it belongs to one of the categories of personality. And when you sum that up, you realize, of all the people you've met and known in your life, the closest thing to Samaritan's character must be me. For decades, every day of my life, it's all about compassion, saving people, helping people. I used to think, what can be done to help people out of hardship, but how to get around the problem and reach out to people. This is what Zion has always been about. As a result, a variety of ministries were born. And we don't charge you a dime, even going out to serve those in need, also, out of our own pocket. Luke 10 verses 29 to 33. But he, willing to justify himself, said unto Jesus, And who is my neighbor? And Jesus answering said, A certain man went down from Jerusalem to Jericho, and fell among thieves, which stripped him of his raiment, and wounded him, and departed, leaving him half dead. And by chance there came down a certain priest that way, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. And likewise a Levite, when he was at the place, came and looked on him, and passed by on the other side. But a certain Samaritan, as he journeyed, came where he was, and when he saw him, he had compassion on him.
I've lived a life so colorful, more precious than I ever could have known. Through the years I found true love, I found a home, didn't have to face the world alone. I wanna sing and dance and shout for joy, praise you, Father, lift my voice. The life you've given me I've treasured and enjoyed. My want and my need shall never replace my purity. My hope, all I dream, I shall place completely at your feet.